Tonight, the inquest begins in the death of the man behind Canada's worst mass stabbing. Also, a dramatic fire in South Regina displaces more than 50 people for a night, caused by a cigarette butt.
My snowblower was working for about the first half hour.
Plus, winter returns to Saskatchewan in a short but powerful punch of snowfall.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, February 26th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. The inquest into the death of the man responsible for Canada's worst mass stabbing began today. Myles Sanderson killed 11 people and injured 17 others, most of whom were from his home community of James Smith Cree Nation. He died in police custody shortly after his arrest. As Dean Patterson reports, a video of the police takedown was shown at today's inquest.
This week will tell the rest of the story, everything not covered by last month's public coroner's inquest. That examined the deaths of 11 people killed by Myles Sanderson, 10 at James Smith Cree Nation, then another in the village of Weldon. This inquest starts after Myles Sanderson disappeared from the village of Weldon. He set up camp about 40 kilometers away while police scoured the province for him for nearly 4 days. RCMP eventually found him and followed him to Roster, where a high-speed chase began. 6 jury members tasked with concluding how, when, where, and why Sanderson died saw dash cam footage of that chase today. Some people in the public gallery cried as it was played. The video shows officers chasing Sanderson, driving a stolen truck into oncoming traffic. He was rammed into the ditch and arrested on the side of the highway between Rostern and Hague. Shortly after, Sanderson went into medical distress and died in RCMP custody. According to Ottawa sources, he ingested drugs before he was arrested. The chief of James Smith Cree Nation says the arrest video was hard to watch. He says Sanderson's actions were cowardly.
Looking at it emotionally, hurt, a clever way of not facing our people, a cowardly way.
Sanderson's ex-partner Vanessa Burns says this inquest will help her move forward.
Just to find out certain information, like how he passed away, like his toxicology reports, and like just to get some closure also. Like the whole thing is so shocking, right? So I kind of just feel like the fact that he's my kid's father and I did care about him.
The jury also heard audio from RCMP. One, communications between RCMP officers they tried to cut off Sanderson's escape routes, and another, a report from a One Arrow First Nation man as he called to say Sanderson approached his doorstep. That was considered to play a large part in Sanderson's arrest. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A Saskatoon judge has heard the final submissions into Greg Fertuck's first-degree murder trial. Sheree Fertuck disappeared more than 8 years ago, and her husband, Greg Fertuck, was arrested for murder in 2019 after a lengthy undercover police sting. Pratush Dayal has the latest.
Greg Fertuck is acting as his own lawyer in a trial where he's accused of killing his ex-wife Sheree. On Monday, Fertuck spoke first, saying he had no reason to harm her. Fertuck tried to cast doubt on the Crown's case, suggesting other people might have wanted to hurt her. He told the court he lied to the undercover police officers about killing Sheree because he wanted to look cool, and also wanted money and perks that came along with the fake organization he thought he was part of. The Crown spent nearly 2 hours going over some of the evidence it says proves Fertuck killed Sheree, and that he confirms those details in his confession. That confession was a part of a Mr. Big Sting operation that happened right here at this hotel, where Fertuck confirms killing Sheree. The Crown says Fertuck killed Sheree because of disagreements over money. Fertuck told an undercover officer, and I quote, "She took away all the things I worked for. I actually ended up shooting her, and that's just between you and me." The Crown also laid out how Fertuck killed Sheree while she was working at the gravel pit, and how Greg went on to dispose of her body. Much of these details come from the Mr. Big Sting. Last September, Justice Danlock ruled that evidence was admissible. Other evidence included his cell phone use and a drop of blood in Greg's truck, matching the DNA profile collected from Sheree's razor. Greg argued the Crown's case has one big flaw. They've never found Sheree's remains. But the Crown says there are many other reasons for that, and that doesn't mean Greg is innocent. The Crown is seeking a first-degree murder conviction, but Greg Fertuck insists he is innocent. The court has now been adjourned until June 14th, and that's when the judge will share his verdict. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon is digging out after a massive snowstorm. An Alberta clipper roared into the city overnight, and once the wind started blowing, it felt like it would never stop. Dan Zakreski brings us that story.
Do not adjust your set. What you see is what we got. Derek Frericks only needed 2 words to describe it.
Full force.
People across the city made the best of it, fighting the wind on foot, in cars and trucks, and not always winning. Bill Coffin started strong, and then, well...
My snowblower was working for about the first half hour.
The machine broke before the storm. So, like many, Coffin went old school.
Mika started barking at the front window, and there were 2 young men, my next-door neighbors, who were trying to shovel in the middle of the night, which was useless. And then when I woke up, I was pleased to discover that my door wasn't actually blocked. So the wind was kind in that respect. And so I went out and started shoveling.
I've been shoveling for about 15 minutes. I helped the neighbor girl get unstuck from the middle of the road and figured, well, now's a better time than ever to shovel my driveway. Well, I was supposed to be at school half an hour ago, but I can't get out of my driveway, so I guess it's a snow day. Not too sad about that. So, yeah, I'm just staying home today.
We'll get the official numbers later. How much snow fell, the strength of the winds, school and road closures. But today, the questions are much more basic, like, where did I park my white car? Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. So the Alberta clipper is gone, but we also have something new to contend with.
Yeah, Sam, I actually wanted to start with talking about how much we got when it came to snowfall totals, but the Environment Canada data wasn't cooperating. I think the equipment took a snow day, as it should. So let's talk about cold instead, because we do have some extreme cold weather warnings in effect, mainly in central parts of the province and in northern parts of the province. They're currently sitting at around -20, even -30 in some areas right now. And as we head further into tonight and into tomorrow, that cold will be sticking around with us, but I'll have more on that later, Sam, in my forecast. For right now, bundle up if you're heading outside.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
The opposition NDP is calling on the provincial government to scrap all new appointees to the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission. At a news conference today, NDP MLA Mira Conway says the commission is supposed to be independent, but a second newly appointed commissioner is being connected to the Saskatchewan Party. Conway says Alan Tomarat is the co-president of Justice Minister Bronwyn Ayre's local Sask Party chapter. In a social media post by Ayre dated August 28th of 2021, Ayre can be seen thanking her Saskatoon Stonebridge Dakota constituency co-president Tomarat. The new commissioners were appointed January 26th, and at that time, there was no mention of the connection.
She knows full well that this is a clear conflict of interest, and frankly, it reeks. This is the type of backroom back-scratching that makes people hate politics and hate politicians. This is the kind of thing that you see in corrupt one-party regimes, not in Saskatchewan.
This is the second member who's being called out for having ties with the governing party. Mubarak Syed was also appointed to the board along with 6 others. He is vying to become a Saskatchewan Party candidate in Saskatoon. The government says in a statement that commissioners work as a consultative body for the commission and that they don't have any role in the complaint process or how it's resolved. Teachers across Saskatchewan began 4 straight days of rotating strikes today, refusing extracurricular duties province-wide and supervising lunch in some division as well. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation has planned job action every day until Thursday, and that includes rotating full-day strikes tomorrow and more lunch and extracurricular disruptions for the days after. It's escalating pressure on families and the province as contact talks between the STF and the government remain at a standstill. The president of the STF says they do recognize it's causing disruption to families.
The significant amount of disruptions that have been created by choices of this government in underfunding education cannot continue. I mean, we have had a generation of kids who have only seen a decline of supports year after year after year as they go through the public education system. And as a parent myself, that is what is more concerning, is what is the state of education going to look like in 5 years when my kids are in high school, or what is the education system going to look like in 10 years?
Education says it's disappointed by the job action. It says it's offered to annualize funding for class complexity and size outside of the contract. And it's also upped its wage offer to teachers. But the STF says class size and complexity need to be on the bargaining table, and they won't resume negotiations until the province agrees. Meanwhile, many parents tell CBC News that while the strikes are disruptive, they stand with teachers calling for more support in schools. A dramatic fire in a 16-suite low-rise apartment building displaced more than 50 people in Regina over the weekend. It happened here on the 200 block of Centennial Avenue in South Regina around 9 o'clock Saturday night. 22 members of the fire department were on scene for several hours Saturday and Sunday, according to the deputy chief. It was what fire crews call fully involved, and they needed 4 pump trucks and a ladder truck to contain it. Since then, investigators have figured out that an improperly discarded cigarette butt is what caused the fire outside a lower unit.
This is a metal container that contains basically sand, crushed gravel, and when smokers go to discard a cigarette, they need to have a container like this to put it in, and not something that is flammable or combustible. So if you put a cigarette into sand or crushed gravel in this type of container, it will eliminate the fire or the chance of further ignition.
In all, 55 people evacuated from the property with the help of mobile crisis services. 2 people were seriously injured, but not with burns. They were hurt trying to escape the fire. The deputy chief of operations for Regina Fire says people living in 14 of the 16 units were able to go home the next day, but 2 suites are no longer safe because of the serious damage. Telemiracle 48 wrapped up last night in Regina, raising more than $6.1 million, an increase over last year's $5.5 million. 75 talented performers from Saskatchewan entertained over the 20-hour telethon. The proceeds stay in the province through the Kinsman Foundation. It grants financial assistance for special medical and mobility equipment, medical travel, and healthcare equipment. Next year's show, March 1st to 2nd in Saskatoon. We'll be back after the break.
$112,717.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Saskatchewan. We love you from the bottom of our hearts.
The federal government has introduced a new bill to tackle online abuse. The legislation is meant to protect children from bullying, exploitation, hatred, and violence on the internet.
Under this bill, major online services will have 3 overarching obligations: a duty to protect children, a duty to act responsibly, and the duty to remove the most egregious content. This bill targets the worst of what we see online.
The bill will involve amending the Criminal Code and the Canadian Human Rights Act. It includes laws that make reporting online child pornography mandatory, and it sets up Digital Safety Commission to enforce the new rules. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has signaled that his party will support the bill. The federal Liberals had attempted an anti-online hate law in 2021, and it was roundly criticized by privacy experts and civil liberties groups.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, is back. So we've gone through the snow. We're digging out, and now we need to dig out extra layers.
Yes, definitely dig out extra layers, Sam, because right now we are dealing with extreme cold weather alerts for northern parts of the province and central parts of the province. Our friends in Uranium City and Stony Rapids currently seeing temperatures at around -25 right now. This was the daytime high. Now, usually around this time of the year, they're sitting at around -11, -12 in these places. So well below seasonal because of that system that made its way through the province today. Now, looking at current temperatures, we're still currently seeing that in northern parts of the province, currently sitting at around -26 in Collins Bay. As we head further down south into central parts of the province, where we're also seeing extreme cold weather alerts, we're currently seeing temperatures at around -20 in Saskatoon. Down south in Regina, where we are, we're currently sitting at around -16. So definitely a cold day. You're definitely going to want to take those layers out. We're done with the snow, but not quite done with the cold. And of course, with this cold, we'll want to worry about that wind chill. It's making things feel a lot more colder. So down here in Regina, it's feeling more like -28 because of that wind chill. Over in Saskatoon, feeling more like -33. And up in the far north as well, it's feeling more like -30 in those areas. So yeah, definitely a cold one. And that's going to stick with us as we head into tomorrow. Now, this system that we did see make its way through the province today is currently heading out. So as we head into tomorrow, we won't have to worry about precipitation too much, but heading further into the week, we will see another system move in coming Thursday, and that will bring more precipitation and snowfall to central and northern parts of the province. Now, of course, we were dealing with a lot of those winds today as well, causing a lot of blowing snow, which made visibility quite poor on highways. So you're still going to want to check the highway hotline if you're heading out. Now, we saw winds gusting up to 50 in most areas. Heading into tomorrow morning, we will see winds cool down a bit. They will start to slow down, but they will still be gusting up to 40 in some areas like Estevan down here. Now, as we head further into the week, that will start to slow down as well. Speaking of further into the week, let's take a look at our 7-day forecast here in Regina. We'll see a daytime high of around -21 tomorrow, so definitely going to want to layer up. Heading into Wednesday, we'll see temperatures warm up a bit, but we'll still be seeing a daytime high at around -11. Now, on Thursday, that's when we really start to feel that warmth again. We'll be sitting above seasonal with a daytime high of -8, and we'll see those flurries start to make its way back in over the weekend. In Saskatoon, of course, we're also going to be seeing very cold temperatures tomorrow, seeing a daytime high of -25, feeling much colder when you factor in that wind chill. We'll see temperatures warm up a bit on Thursday as well with a daytime high of -2. And heading into the weekend, well, of course, we'll see that precipitation move back in. But for now, Sam, you definitely want to layer up because it is very, very cold, sadly.
I was going to ask if Thursday was a typo, but my explanation for the blip is that it's a leap year, so it's a weird day.
I love that, Sam. Great way to explain it.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
We'll have more news after the break. "94 pieces of art for 94 calls to action." It's a challenge students from the Belcaris Community School took in 2018, and now their creations are on display at the Neil Balkwell Civic Arts Centre in Regina.
It's all part of the education, I think, that we as non-Indigenous people need to have. Certainly the artwork brings forth a lot of the incidents, I guess, that the church was responsible for. So as a TRC committee for the Archdiocese, I think this is one way in which we can bring forward kind of a knowledge of what happened in the residential schools and building our relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. So we're very happy to bring it here to the Neil Balkwell Arts Centre, and it'll be on display for the rest of the month of February. We also have several events that we are having here to provide a little bit of a background for the art display as well.
I was amazed at the students' depth of understanding and how they were able to transpose that from what they felt and the words into artwork. It was amazing. And the other reflection I had is that these people, the young students that did this artwork, are adults now out in our community. And I was kind of thinking, what difference are they making? Did this have an impact on them?
I was struck actually by the writing of the children, of the students. They, you know, it's very enjoyable to read young people's words, and with thoughtful words, and discussing serious issues and matters that you know, affect all of us, and some of them more deeply perhaps. One of these pieces of artwork, the number 40, actually really stood out to me because it talked about the 60s scoop, and it has, you know, the newspaper article about these children went to home, and there were a fair number of foster families in our neighborhood, in our community. And it struck me, you know, as a child, it was just a natural, normal thing, and I was not aware, you know, how much trauma my little classmates and must have experienced.
We realize that building relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is an ongoing process. Making the conversations and building those relationships takes a long, long time.
And Tyreek is back with one last look at your weather.
Thank you, Sam. So once again, the cold is coming. Temperatures will drop to around -21 tonight in Regina, feeling much colder with that wind chill. As we start our day tomorrow, we'll still be feeling that cold. We'll be sitting at around -22. And heading into the afternoon, once again, sticking around with us, we'll also be sitting at around -22. For Saskatoon, that cold is also coming in, feeling much colder, sitting at around -27 tonight. Heading into tomorrow morning, we'll be starting our day in Saskatoon, feeling like -28, much colder with the wind chill, of course. And as we head into the afternoon, that cold sticking around with us again. Once again, -27, feeling like -36, Sam.
That's really cold.
Very cold.
All right. Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
And before we leave you tonight, a case of unopened hockey cards found in Saskatchewan just sold for more than $5 million Canadian. The case was put up for auction by a Regina family after they found the treasure while cleaning out an attic. That case contains thousands of 1979 OPG branded hockey cards. Experts estimate up to 27 Wayne Gretzky rookie cards could be inside the case. A single mint condition Gretzky card can sell for millions just on its own. The family has stayed anonymous, selling the mystery case through an American auction house.
The group chat couldn't have been a happier place to be. Everyone was so excited. We were working pretty late last night trying to make sure that everyone who wanted to bid could bid. And if anyone needed additional information, or if they need an extra push to put in another bid, we were there to do so. And the family is ecstatic.
Simon says there were about 15 unique bidders, but in the end, an American bidder was the top, or a Canadian bidder was the top, actually. They're also staying anonymous with a 20% buyer's premium on top of the purchase price. The winner paid $3.72 million US for the case, just over 5 million Canadian. It's not sure what the buyer is going to do with the case, but they could sell the individual boxes for up to $230,000 apiece. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.